Happy to have you here, ladies and gentlemen, in this course of research methodology, which is part of the requirements of the Inspiration and Resilience Economy postgraduate programs. Now, today we're going to tackle about the data collection stage, and this is very important stage, and this is what differentiates actually Inspiration Economy approaches and techniques that compared to others in the field, in the same field. So in this actually in this part of this course, we're going to cover about how we do data collection to specific case studies. For example, the case of the women development instead of women empowerment. So we need to collect the data of what type of women, let's say, empowerment programs available, and how it is measured, and then define what means women development, and then we collect another data relevant whether there are women development reality in women development. For example, women empowerment, we might collect data relevant to how many women are empowered to be leaders, empowered to be ministers or council members or academics and so on, or head of departments or entrepreneurs and so on. While for women development, we're going to see whether the data is available actually relevant to whether women is really contributing to the economy or contributing to the social stability or contributing to the development of the country directly or indirectly, whether they are entrepreneurs or they are heads of departments and so on. So what is the data collection? And how we can define it? It depends on the type of the research question we are trying to tackle. So the term of data refers to any kind of information that the researcher wants to obtain, whether it's relevant to subjects or respondents or participants of the study. And the data are collected and used to answer the research question and the objectives of the study. And of course, the data at the end of the day, it is based on what we need to, let's say, explore. And it depends a lot in actually how we really designed our research study. So the research data are generally classified either quantitative and qualitative, as we mentioned earlier. Based on their sources, they fall under two categories. Either they are primary data or they are secondary data. And based on that, we're going to tackle, for example, the quantitative data. Then we go for collecting information that is counted or expressed in numerical values. Okay, as we said, how many women are, let's say, ministers, how many, what is the percentage of women they are going to education, what is the percentage of literacy or illiteracy of women compared to men. And then we see, for example, the number of students or the age or the grades or the test scores. While for qualitative data, we're going to tackle, for example, and describe how many women are not working or unemployed, how many are graduates of school, of high school or universities, what is their dreams, their attitudes, their perceptions, their feelings. And for that, the data collection need to be divided mainly into primary data and secondary data. The primary data will be from our questionnaires, our interviewing, or our, again, observations. It might be also through our focus groups and so on. So this is usually the questionnaire usually is mailed or collected directly, or it can be through the interviews also, which can be structured or unstructured, which we'll talk about later. It means that either we're going for specific questions, which is they take the interview through, or unstructured. It depends on, we keep it open so that we can collect more data through discussion. And then the observation, which is again whether we are participating on the research ourselves, living, for example, with the poor, living with the community to see the women development or something, or we are non-participant, means we are just collecting the data from outside. For secondary data, we need to see what is the WHO or the Economic Forum or the United Nations or UNDP or UNID or whoever these people will publish, again, data about women development, or for example, UN for Women, and then whether there is government publication or local area publication or even research that was done on women empowerment in this area or women development. And then the census and also the personal records from, let's say, the universities and so on. So the primary data are originated by the researcher and they are specific for the purpose of the study. They are collected directly from the subjects being studied. The secondary data usually, as we said, the information already available. They have been collected from other people or other resources. And we can depend on other, let's say, published papers and other published literature. And then we can see whether they are published recently or not. So there are tools actually for primary sources of data. We mentioned the questionnaire, the interview, and the observation. The questionnaire must contain simple, straightforward directions for the respondents. They should not be having ambiguous questions, and they should be clear. Besides, there should not be leading questions. That is, the respondent, for example, will be directed to a certain answer. Okay. For example, we should not ask, how often do you wash your car? For example, these are leading questions. Okay. Whether we should ask first whether they are washing their car or not. Okay. Then assume, based on that, we can ask the second question, which is how often they wash it. Assume that the respondent have a car and he wash it. Instead of ask a filter question and find out, for example, whether he or she have a car or not. If you wash your car, how many times a year, for example? So again, these questions need to be really filtered so that we can come up with good answers and good results. So there are three basic type of questionnaire that we can follow during putting questionnaires: a close-ended questionnaire questions, open-ended questions, and combination of both closed and open-ended questions. The closed format, close-ended questions, they include possible answers or pre-written response categories, and respondents are asked to choose among them. For example, for a closed form of questions, it follows, for example, if the group tests are used in the schools or not, and by whom they are administered, what type of, whether they are through administrators or counselors. So the respondent can choose that, or maybe whether they are from psychologists or psychometricians or from teachers and so on. Now there is open-ended questions. These open-ended questions usually, it depends on the respondents, how they answer it. And these are meant to help us to discover more about the area under study, especially if there are no other studies. For example, so you can ask let's say your respondents to state their opinion about the quality of a certain product or a certain service or a specific, for example, item. And then we have the combination of both, which is to find out how many people use a service and what they think of a service of the same form. We can begin with a series of close-ended questions and then open questions so that we can have a comprehensive study. We might have also dichotomous questions. These questions, do you like, for example, the product of certain company? If yes and no, and then why they are important? And then the cost effectiveness, for example, of the certain service. Is it extremely important? Is this very important? Is this somewhat important? Or it's not important? So these are Likert scale based questions that help us to, again, specifically direct or codify the answers according to a certain category, which help us, again, to be precise when we, let's say, write our conclusion and our discussion. This is an example. For example, whether a company A or something products have improved over time on their quality. If you agree or you don't agree or disagree or undecided or strongly disagree, this is what we call Likert scale. Likert scale, usually it is 3 or 5 or 7 choices of the respondents. We might have the bipolar questions, which means how would you describe the services of a certain company, whether it's efficient or inefficient? So they will choose among this, or whether it's fast or slow, or whether it's reliable or unreliable. And they will have, again, let's say, a scale for that. You might have also rating scales. Well, how do you rate, for example, a service of certain company, whether it is one good or fair or poor or four, which is very poor. So part of the data collection also, which is most important, inspiration economy, is the observation. And here we say that observation can be defined as an act of recognizing and noting a fact or occurrence, often involving measurement with instruments. So, for example, in socioeconomic studies, our observation would involve that we watch what is happening on the field, or maybe we go and visit. For example, in case of women development, we might visit the data and visit the actual reality of how women are successful or they need empowerment in certain fields by having site visits, and then analyze the ongoing behavior of these women as a respondents. We can also gather the data by watching the behavior or events or noting the physical characteristics. And of course, observation can be overt. Everyone knows that they are being observed, or covert, which means that no one knows that they are being observed from the researcher. The observation methods also can be to involve a human or mechanical observation. For example, what actually we can do about certain event that's taking place, or and so on. Or information can be collected by observing a process at work. So there are 4 main types of observation in socioeconomic studies. The first type is the participant observation, which we participate on it. So we'll be part of the community and we participate with them, and then we put our observation. Or non-participating, we see it only from outside. Covert, which means we are not openly telling them that they are under study. Or overt, which means we are openly telling them they are under study, so that we can collect the observation in a proper way. So participant observation is an observational research method involving the researcher integrating with the group or the people under study. So they, for example, we might join the community and the researcher will be present, which is known as overt, or again, a member that is not known, which is covert. And then based on the observation, we examine what people do instead of just say, what they say. We don't collect what they say, but what they actually work on. Again, this is what we mentioned about women development. We can see, for example, whether women really are developing or just they are saying they are developing, whether they are really creating a change in their communities or adding a value, or just they are getting numbers or getting, for example, to be richer or better situation, whether they are creating family stability or not. So this is a type of thing that we can collect. So usually a classroom observation sheet can be based on knowledge, can be based on skills, which is know how to do, and attitude, which is know how to be. And when we collect the data about knowledge, we ask, for example, or check whether certain indicators, like they have a good comment and for oral and written, for example, practices, they are familiar with a certain issue, or they have knowledge with the regulations that is controlling them. When we collect the skills, which is they know how to do, we are talking about the plan of learning, whether they are, again, having proper learning situations, whether they have a set of remedies that they are working for example, if they are slow in their learning capacity and so on. When we talk about attitudes, which is know how to be, we are demonstrating, for example, the positive attitudes toward certain stakeholders, whether it's students or women or let's say parents and so on. We demonstrate sense of responsibility, which means that we can manage the conflict, we participate in the school life, we keep people confidentiality, and we demonstrate on creating readiness for change and innovation. And then we can, based on that, we can choose one of these skills, which means that either they have maximum mastery, or they have medium mastery, or they have actually, let's say, partial mastery, or they will have no mastery at all. By this, we can collect the observation and start to record the observation. I think I will stop here and continue with you next time. Thank you very much.